Talks over control of Russia's only independent television network, NTV, have broken down. The meeting between officials of the state-run natural gas monopoly, Gazprom, and NTV lasted about 1 hour. NTV's newly appointed chairman says the journalist, headed by the ousted NTV director, refused to make concessions. The talks were aimed at resolving a 4-day standoff. We have more now from Moscow correspondent Sonia Pace.
Senior program editor Yelena Kartseva told VOA the mood at the station is one of defiance and resistance.
Как может ощущать себя женщина, которую пытались изнасиловать? Я могу только так это оценить.
Speaking about the Gazprom takeover, she says, "I think we all feel like a woman must feel after a rape attempt." Yelena Kartseva says the NTV journalists are determined to prove they cannot be bought. She says there's even been talk of bigger salaries under the new management, but she says it's not about money. Ms. Kartseva has worked for NTV for the past 4 years. She says she likes the working atmosphere at NTV, but she says she knows she may have to look for another job. The protest at NTV is against Tuesday's boardroom coup when major shareholder and creditor Gazprom replaced NTV's senior directors with its own new management team. The head of Gazprom's media subsidiary, Alfred Koch, was appointed chairman of the NTV board, replacing NTV founder Vladimir Guzinski. Russian-American banker and financier Boris Yordan was brought in as NTV's new managing director, replacing Yevgeny Kiselyov. And Vladimir Kulistikov was brought in as the station's new chief editor. Mr. Kulistikov is a former NTV journalist who left last year to work for state-run media. NTV's new director, Boris Yordan, says the changes were a financial necessity for a company that has been losing money and is unable to make good on its loans. He said his goal is to make the company profitable, but he also insisted he would not be subject to political pressure.
Я хочу, чтобы вы знали заранее, это очень важный момент. Если меня
Mr. Yordan says as general director, he would not allow pressure from the authorities or from shareholders to influence NTV's editorial policy.
Что моими руками влиять на редакционную политику.
But few on the NTV staff are convinced. Following the Gazprom takeover, the station broke off its regular programming, showing only news programs and advertisement. The main item has been the situation at NTV. Between newscasts, viewers are often shown an empty chair. The NTV logo at the bottom of the screen is crossed out with the word protest written over it. NTV and its supporters see the Gazprom takeover as a move by the government to silence the country's only independent nationwide television channel. NTV has often run afoul of the authorities with its hard-hitting programs on corruption, government policy, the war in Chechnya, and its criticism of the administration of President Vladimir Putin. NTV's financial problems have long become a public issue, and the station's founder, Vladimir Guzinski, is currently in Spain fighting extradition back to Russia to face fraud charges. Mr. Guzinski says the charges are part of the government's campaign against his media outlets. The Paris-based journalist advocacy group Reporters Without Borders has condemned the takeover, as have a number of Russian politicians, including former Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev.
Несмотря на всю остроту ситуации, надо искать выход из того, чтобы не потерять...
Mr. Gorbachev said it is vital to find a way to retain NTV as an independent, responsible news outlet, and he called on President Putin to step in and do something. He said it's not enough for the president to constantly state publicly that he supports freedom of speech. He needs to act. But NTV's ousted director, Yevgeny Kiselyov, said Wednesday he does not expect a reaction from President Putin. Instead, he accused the president of being behind the dispute.
Знаете, я, откровенно говоря, не ожидаю от господина Путина никакой реакции.
He said President Putin started this war against NTV, and he is now pretending he has nothing to do with it. Mr. Putin has said in the past the dispute between NTV and Gazprom is a financial issue in which he would not get involved. NTV is immensely popular and the most influential source of information outside of government control. At a news conference Tuesday, viewers spoke out in support of the station. 32-year-old Larissa Alexandrovna says she's outraged by what is happening.
Я пришла в защиту не только НТВ, но даже своих прав. Вы понимаете?
She said she came to support not just NTV, but her own rights, adding, "Why should anyone dictate to me what I listen to, what I watch?" She said the truth must be told, and she said that if NTV goes, the Russian public will get what it used to get 20 or 30 years ago under the old Soviet regime. The Gazprom takeover of NTV comes amid reports that the founder of the U.S. cable news network, Ted Turner, may be finalizing a deal to buy into the beleaguered Russian TV channel. Sonia Pace, VOA News, Moscow.
Ted Turner called on the protesting NTV staff to remain patient as he negotiates his purchase of a large stake in the Russian network.
Are now pinning their hopes on American media tycoon Ted Turner, who is said to be trying to finalize a deal to buy a 30% share of the station. Journalists feel that Mr. Turner's participation will help safeguard their editorial independence. NTV's financial woes have been a public issue for some time, but the dispute between the station and Gazprom is also widely viewed as a litmus test for press freedom in Russia. The latest action by Gazprom has resulted in expressions of concern by the European Union and the United States. German Chancellor Gerhard Schröder also said he would raise the issue during talks with President Vladimir Putin in St. Petersburg on Monday. Sonia Pace, VOA News, Moscow.
It is 10:30 Universal Time, and this is VOA News Now. Hello again, everyone. I'm Steve Norman in Washington. Coming up in this half hour on the best of Talk to America, find out what physical fitness can do for you and me. It's time now for the news. Here's Dara Steen.
Thank you, Steve. The Moscow headquarters of Russia's only independent nationwide television network, NTV, is in the hands of new managers who began immediately firing journalists who reject their authority. Some journalists opposed to the new management reported on the events on NTV for about 4 minutes until the broadcast went off the air. NTV later resumed broadcasting with newscasts by those who support the new management.